Entrepreneurs Podcast.
Welcome to the Real Estate Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing my friend, Mr. Walter Devenne, all the way from Tampa. Walter, is it Walter Devenne or Walter Devine, man? Come on, let's answer that question.
You got it right the first time, Walter Devenne.
Walter Devenne, man, all the way from Tampa, Florida, brother. Walter, thank you so much for jumping in at such a late notice. I know that I didn't give you much time, but you said whenever you're ready, let's do it, right? So, Walter, for those of you that don't know who you are, man, who are you? Where are you from? Where do you come from? Tell us a little bit about your background, not only in your professional life, but like originally where you're from and all that. Like,
sure thing. I'm born and raised in Medford, Massachusetts. It's a suburb right outside of Boston. Grew up there and had an amazing childhood. Once I graduated high school at Don Bosco Tech, which was located in downtown Boston, I attended a great college in Winter Park, Florida, called Rollins College, and that's what really brought me to Florida. And I lived out there in Orlando for a good 10 years and enjoyed it so much that when college was over, everyone asked what I was going to do when I went back to Boston, and I told them I'm never leaving Florida.
I am not coming back to Boston. I'm just coming for visiting.
It's exactly right. So, I mean, I enjoy Florida so much. I've lived here now most of my life, and it's just it's my second. I say Boston's my second home now because I live here for so long, but both places were amazing to grow up in, both great sports towns and or states, and just love it here. I appreciate growing up in a eastern state. I appreciate good weather and sun and all the things that Florida has to offer. So I try to enjoy it as much as possible.
So what do you go to college for? What kind of degree do you get?
I got a political science degree and a bachelor's in business administration. I really honestly, like most college kids, when they go, they're not really sure exactly what they want to do. And I didn't want to be one of those, college students that spent 6 or 8 years just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And college is not cheap, especially Rollins. Probably one of the most expensive schools in the country. So, I tried really hard to make sure I graduated on time in 4 years, which thankfully I did.
Good for you, man. And while you were going to college, did you have side jobs? Did you have or you were just a full-time student?
Full-time student. I played college basketball while I was there. Joined a fraternity. I actually worked for a catering company called Puff and Stuff, which is still in business from what I hear. And I tried to do it all. It's when you're able to multitask, at an early age, I think it really kind of helps shape you later in life. And I enjoyed that. I actually did an internship with a marketing company called Vector Marketing. They actually sold Cutco cutlery, pretty much door to door, and had like over 5,000 college students that actually, helped represent the company. They're still in business today. Best cutlery in the world.
I got some knives, man. Come on.
Yep. I probably sold them to you. But
no, my daughter did, right? Like, so when she was going to college, she came one day, Dad, I'm selling these knives. And there, you like grilling, you like cooking steaks on Sunday and all that. And I'm like, sure, let me check them out. And you know what? They were pretty good, man. So
amazing.
I bought a set.
Yep. They're amazing. And, that's kind of how I first got my feet wet in sales. We had a lot of different students, like I said, that were all over the country kind of competing. It was a lot of fun with the competition and everything. And, my senior year, I actually finished in the top 4 in the entire company for sales nationwide. So I realized that I had a gift, and I didn't realize it until I started selling knives. So who would have thought?
So what do you think made you good at selling knives at the time?
At the time, I wasn't really sure. I just wanted to do something different, and I had some friends that were involved in it and said it was pretty fun. And it was in Orlando, and Orlando's obviously a great place that the weather nice all the time. And before you knew it, we were in competitions with each other, going to conferences in different parts of the country. When I graduated, I actually had an opportunity to open up an office in Daytona Beach, and I was so I actually wasn't, a business owner, a branch owner of a marketing company, when I was 21 years old. So it was kind of surreal to be able to work in business by myself. It was probably the best training I ever had, just kind of learning how to do everything. They made us actually go out there and negotiate leases and do all this crazy stuff that obviously we weren't really trained to do. They just basically guided us to, be successful and make mistakes.
What kind of leases were you negotiating?
Well, leases for like offices that we were looking to rent. I mean, I actually had after I graduated, I had a branch office, and they said, hey, if you can negotiate your lease for the summer and hit a certain benchmark, by the fall, we're gonna, bring you on as a regular, office manager or whatever, or they basically shut down your office. So initially, we had to negotiate it for just the summer, which was very difficult. Luckily,
It's a short-term lease, basically, what they're telling you to go get.
Yep, short-term lease, and try to get it for as little as you can, and give them the poor sob story of I'm a struggling college student. I remember the pitch real well, but it was actually, like I said, it was a great experience, and we did well enough that summer to keep the office open, and we had a regular office in there for about a year and a half. It was actually
was it a Cutco office? Like
yes, it was Cutco. Vector Marketing is Cutco. They sell all the kitchen appliances, the knives, the kitchenware, the cookware. It was everything. And then you actually had, you recruited, you trained, you
motivate. You had to motivate people. Motivate other college kids that were broke.
Yeah, and when you open up an office, you not only had to motivate college kids, you had to motivate like grown adults, which was kind of challenging. When they see a 21-year-old up there standing up, trying to motivate them, and they're in their 20s and 30s and 40s, listening to me. So
that's funny, man.
It was a trip.
I didn't know that about you, Walter. Like, we've been knowing each other for a while now, and I didn't know that's how you got into the world of sales.
Yes.
I actually call this podcast business development in real estate, because that's what you're really good at the
Right.
business development portion. Even though you're an agent and your wife is in the mortgage side,
right?
You've done all kinds of things. You've done wholesaling. You've done title companies. You've done regular agent transactions. But in reality, what you are is in the business development world, which is building and creating relationships.
Right. Well, with real estate, shortly after I graduated Rollins, I ended up working for the biggest real estate developer in all of Florida, David Siegel. He's a billionaire that just recently passed away a couple months ago. And he owned tons of real estate, orange groves. He had a big timeshare empire called Westgate. I got my real estate license when I joined there, and worked for one of his 20 nationwide resorts. And his flagship property was just a mile from Disney. And I worked there for almost 5 years on his elite team. And I learned a ton about real estate and sales and everything else from there. And it was just a really, amazing experience right after Vector. So, I mean, 2 great companies, 2 great training portals that I was able to kind of guide myself through. And then I just decided to move closer to the water, after 10 years in Central Florida and Orlando. And I relocated to Tampa Bay in 2000, and I've lived here ever since. This is where I got my start in the title business, is Tampa. So this is where it all began in the title industry.
Good deal, man. My dad has a Westgate Lakes timeshare, and we use it every summer, literally every summer, because he doesn't use it.
Right.
For me, it's a free week, in Disney. So I just pay the fees or whatever they charge for the whole week, and I go use it. Right. So, so I'm very familiar with Westgate, the Westgate brand. So you moved to Tampa after being in Westgate in the year 2000. And would you say that was your first real estate experience? It was working for that group?
Yes.
Now, that's a weird way of getting into real estate, which is through the timeshare business. Can you tell us a little bit about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the timeshare business, right? From a sales perspective, from your perspective.
It's really high pressure. And the one thing that's kind of unique about it was in Orlando. A lot of people don't realize Orlando is the timeshare capital of the world. I mean, they have timeshare that they sell all over in beautiful tropical areas, but Orlando has more resorts, more timeshare sales than anyone. So, the competition there is amazing. The concept is really cool too, as far as, for people that like to travel and travel with families, saving money on hotels, versus having a big resort with lots of rooms. It wasn't really a hard sell for the right person. I mean, obviously, everyone goes in for the presentation for a free breakfast and Disney tickets, and then they leave with a $20,000 timeshare week. So, it was, at the time, I mean, seeing all the success that they had and the people that were doing well, you always look at that competitive side of, I can do better than that person, or, I can't believe that they're not, the top person, and I know if I get training, I can do it right. So, I think there was 45 people in our training class. And I think maybe 4 or 5 people by the time I left were still at the company.
Wow.
And 2 of those people I'm really good friends with. We travel together, we hang out. So it was just a great experience. But yeah, it was, the way they kind of train us, you can be really hardcore and really high pressuring, or you can just be just matter of fact. And just, the thing I like the most about the way they taught us is you got to relieve the pressure, because when you first shake hands with them, they're sizing you up. They don't want to be there. So you have to obviously win them over with good personality, asking the right questions. And it actually worked. I remember getting my first sale and I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they said yes.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I mean, it was a great business. It was, 5 years there though. I mean, it kind of burned you out a little bit towards the end. Cause it was like, you're doing 2-3 tours a day, and you're working it. You're walking people through, the summer months to units to go see them while you're wearing a dress pant, nice shirt and tie. Some people wear suit jackets in the summer, when it's August and September. And that was one thing I really didn't miss about doing tours.
Good deal, man. And what's the average income for somebody that's selling timeshares?
I mean, I would say the lower end people make probably 50, 60 grand a year, and all the higher end ones are making 6 figures, and there's management positions where they're making much more, 200,000-300,000 a year, and guys did really well there. I mean, I and again, I'm still friends with people that are still tied to the business, and and some people just love it. It's almost like the way I feel about title, they just feel like they can never leave it, but yeah, it's again, anyone that's looking for a sales position or learning sales, I mean, throw yourself in a timeshare resort and you'll get the best training any college could provide you.
Wow. Incredible, man. I never knew that about you either, Walter. You see, the few things that I get to learn when I talk to people on a podcast, um, you and I have been friends for quite a while now, and almost, I would say, probably 10 years.
Yep.
And I didn't know those things. Cutco and then Westgate, the Westgate resorts. So you moved to Tampa.
Yep.
Because you wanted to be closer to the water, and as I can see, you're right by the water, so you couldn't
Yep.
be closer to it right now. What was the first thing you did in Tampa, real estate related?
When I moved to Tampa, I actually, wasn't really sure exactly. I didn't have a job lined up or anything like that. I was just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do when I grew up.
Right.
And I had a lot of friends that were in real estate, but I had some other friends that were in the title business. And in the early 2000s, the title business was thriving. It was incredibly lucrative. And I had friends making like really amazing money pretty fast. And, I literally went out, on a training day with, one of my friends who actually was the head of marketing for a title company locally here. And he just said, come out with me and see how it's done, and I did a ride along. And, I thought it was probably the easiest job I've ever seen. That it wasn't anything like selling knives or timeshare. It was just, literally walking in and introducing yourself and, making sure that you just kind of listen and ask the right questions. And he was walking out of offices with refi orders, like in the bunches. I mean, I think one day he actually, brought to the office about 20 orders just from driving around and knocking on doors and hugging and shaking hands and bringing lunches. And I just thought, this is the easiest job I think I've ever witnessed, firsthand. So I chose to work in the business, at that point. I had immediate success. It was just, right away, it was instantaneous. I even was driving limos part-time. I got my chauffeur's license, and I was doing that part-time just because I, needed to try to get my pipeline built up. And I think I did the limo driving thing for maybe 3 or 4 months. And by then it was like the business was so good. I didn't have to do any other job, but just focus on title. And, the title business, I've been in it 25 years. It's been really, really good to me and my family. I met my wife, in the business. She was actually a client and, we met each other through the title business that way. And I've made obviously a lot of great relationships. I've met you in the business as well. And, I'm a people person. I've always enjoyed networking and meeting with people, helping clients, in this business, obviously helping them close transactions. Arguably a lot of these people are making the biggest purchase of their lifetime. So there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress along the way. I know exactly how that feels by purchasing my own house and, making that difference and helping people. It's extremely, to me, it was very, important, very rewarding. I've worked at different companies over the years and, the title company I work with now, Close Title, we're able to service 32 states nationally. We have 26 offices. We can close, any type of real estate transaction that's out there, commercial, retail, lending, REO, land. We love working with wholesalers and investors, creative people. There's really nothing our title company can't do. And I think that's one of the, things that I've really enjoyed about, coming into this business and, working at a place like this now that I can actually say, we've actually got everything covered. We actually have a team within our company called the Creative Close Team. It's led by Adrienne Prince, who and she's the best closer I've ever worked with in all my career. She's, she actually has really helped our team and kind of managed our team as well and produced. Last month, we had our best month in 5 years, and it was doing that during a down market, which I know we're all in real estate, is pretty amazing. There's something to be said for that. I mean, sometimes we forget we're in a down market because we're just so, every day's a grind and we just kind of try to focus and put our blinders on with what we've got going on, versus reading the newspaper or the Google and seeing how, rates are high and sales are down. It's like, it's easy to get caught up in the negativity out there. And for us, we're just trying to move forward, having, a lot of success. But this is the second year in a row that Close Title has actually been in Inc. magazine named one of the fastest growing companies in the entire Southeast. And this is the second year in a row they've done that. It just goes to show kind of like what's happening in the, with our company, what we're doing. Our team actually makes my job easier, because not every team can actually make clients happy. And, when they do, it's something that I don't take for granted.
Yeah, the title business, it's very unforgiving as well, right? So
it's hard. It's a hard business, and so many moving parts, different personalities, lots of pressure. It's a extremely challenging business, but it's rewarding at the same time. Our team does it better than any team I've ever worked with in 25 years. And at the end of the day, our technology sets us apart from other people, other companies. We have a lot of experience, high level of service. We offer cash closings virtually, which most companies don't offer. Wire options, with Venmo style apps so that they don't have to go to the bank. They can just wire it from their phone. Our closing portal, allows for access to, our clients to go see what's actually happening in real time. Referrals are through the roof, and, we're just excited the direction that we're heading in.
I'm glad to hear, man. So you've been in the title business now since 2000, you said, right? Or is it?
Yes.
2000, the year 2000 when you moved to Tampa.
Yep.
But you're also an agent, right? Do you hold a license?
Yeah, I have a real estate broker's license with Quicksilver Real Estate Group, great company, attorney owned, and they leave us alone, we leave them alone, and it's great. They have support when we need it, and it's a great company.
Those guys are wholesalers, correct? Because
No, no, different group.
oh,
Quicksilver
it's a
Real Estate
different group. Okay,
is a real estate brokerage with agents. And the agents can be all different types: residential, commercial, investor. And the splits are amazing, and the broker owner she's very easy to work with.
good deal. And you've also wholesale deals,
Yes.
a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you still don't identify as a wholesaler. You're more of a title, the title business development guy, right? So,
Right.
um, talk to me about a little bit about wholesaling. How do you get into wholesaling?
Well, with title, it's kind of like, it's part of our whole, process, because working with wholesalers, they send us transactions that, they'll send us a title order to open title, and they won't have an end buyer, so a lot of times, especially if it's in my local market in Tampa Bay or even Florida, like Central Florida, South Florida, they're looking for an end buyer. And there's a lot of times I'll be able to, as a realtor, with all the clientele that we have that are looking to buy in Tampa Bay, which is one of the hottest markets in the country, I'll basically send out their deal to people that are local. And there's times that we lock a deal up together before before we even open or order a title search. Then there's times they find the end buyer on their own. The better wholesalers, the more savvy ones, usually get their deals done pretty quick. Once they send in the title to open, like within like a few hours or even a couple days, we're getting the end buyer contract and we're moving forward with the search, getting everything cleared and getting everything ready for close. But wholesaling's been great, and there's a lot of people out there right now that are doing it nationwide. A lot of opportunities. Virtual wholesaling is a real popular thing right now, where you've got wholesalers that are investing in multiple states, which is kind of like where we actually are. So, I'd say that, virtual wholesalers really enjoy us. We're kind of a one-stop shop for them, since we can actually handle most states and we can do it as a one-stop shop.
Good deal. What's the smallest wholesale deal you've done?
Um, there was a land deal done once.
You gotta remember the small one, man. Come on.
Oh yeah, there was a land deal that we helped sell once, and I think the land deal was like 18,000. It was, and again, the one thing in this business, no matter if it's title or real estate, you just don't say no. Because
Yeah.
you're gonna have big deals, you're gonna have small deals, and you got to take the good with the bad, and you can't reject. I almost, my business side said, you don't want to do this deal. There's not enough, spread. But then at the end of the day, I had done multiple deals with this party, and they knew that it was, a small deal, and they even brought it up to me that way, and it was presented that way. So for me, I was more than happy to get it done with them. We actually used a different title company that, the seller had actually chosen anyway. So it was just kind of a quick, easy deal. But yeah, you just don't forget the small ones either.
Yeah, I made $750 net.
Yep.
After a close on a small piece of land that we sold. I think we sold it for 3,500 or something like that.
I beat you. Mine was 500.
Yeah, so mine was $750. So now what's the biggest assignment that you've collected as a wholesaler?
60 grand. It was a commercial deal, multifamily. It was several years ago in a Houston deal, and it was nice. There was a couple people involved, and we were direct to the seller, so it actually worked out really smooth. But yeah, it was nice. Just making a big chunk of money on one sale, like that, when it's not really my first job. My first job is always and always will be title, but it's nice to get a nice size deal on a property that's you can make some good cheddar on.
So you like the very importance of multiple streams of income, right? So
Yes.
so you do title, you are an agent as well. You can do listings. I kind of laughed because when I put that I moved to Tampa, Florida on my Facebook, you started hitting me up. You're like, dude, we need to connect, and I'm like, Walter, you will be probably the first one to know if I move to Tampa because I would need a place to stay. You know
Oh
what I'm
yeah.
saying? So you're like, oh, you moved to Tampa. I was like, no. I put that because I wanted to filter my friends on Facebook that live in Tampa. That's a quick hack, just so you
Yes.
know. If you go on Facebook and you put, I want to see my friends in Tampa, Florida, you can't do that.
Right.
You cannot do it. But if I put it, that I moved in there and I want to search the local people where I'm at, then I can see the list.
Right.
And that's the only reason I did that, because we're gonna do the attend growth in Tampa in June 27th, 28th.
Yes.
And I wanted to see who was in Tampa so I can hit them up right away, right?
That was a smart tactic.
Dude, I would love to move to Tampa. My wife doesn't want to do it. So, who says yes in the house.
Yep,
who has the last word. So,
yep.
But if it was up to me, brother, I would live in Tampa right now. No problems. Very close to the water, just like you are.
Yep.
All right. So talking about wholesaling, title, in the title business, right? Let's get down into the title business now. What are the do's and don'ts of the title company, of the title business, from a client perspective? So, from your point of view, I'm a wholesaler and I want to work with you and close.
Right.
I want to send you a contract to open title and all that. What does that process look? What should I do? What shouldn't I do?
Well, reaching out to me directly is the best thing to do, just because, some people actually call our main office line, or they'll call an office in Utah and try to open up title thinking that we're all just understanding who they are and what they're all about. And, we have different offices that have they specialize in different things. Some are retail based, some are, some handle commercial. Sending it directly to me is important, just because I kind of know the process on how to get them, set up, get their deal submitted. We actually created a link, our owners did, which is pretty brilliant, where they literally click, a button or a link when they're ready to submit. And the link takes them directly to our portal at Qualia. And it basically asks them to fill in the blanks of all the party information, with the seller, the buyer, the realtor, the lender, whoever is involved, the wholesaler, emails, all their contact information, then the contracts, whichever ones they have up front. And once they click submit, the system automates to send welcome emails to everyone. And basically, without even, having to do anything, it literally just automatically sends a welcome email letting everyone know we're going to be handling their file at the property address that we have listed. They even put in the for the end buyer, if they have the end buyer's information, it automatically also sends the end buyer our wire instructions, automatically secured. So it just really, the technology makes it easy. And so we let the client know, or the wholesaler know up front, clicking that link is really big, because it sets off a chain reaction of all kinds of communication that really gets everything set off. From there, we get everything assigned. We get everything open. If they provide the end buyer contract up front, then we go ahead and order the title search immediately. We don't waste any time. We get started right away, regardless of the close date. If they don't have the end buyer contract, which happens more frequently than having it, all we do is sit tight. We let the wholesaler know we're going to hold on to this file. We're going to wait until you get the end buyer. Once you get the end buyer contract ready to go with the assignment or the double close or whatever, we'll get the title search ordered, and then the title search takes on average about 3 to 5 business days. We can order a rush search if we had to, if the close date was within a week or a few days, and that has happened. So from there, we kind of sit back, wait for the title search to come back, see what's actually happening with the property, make sure the seller is the actual seller of the property. We've had situations where the wholesaler was duped and didn't realize that the person that was portraying them to be the seller wasn't. So of course we do our due diligence and we do all of our checking to make sure everything's kosher and where it needs to be and legitimate. And then from there, we get everything back, we see what's on there, and make sure if there's payoffs that are needed to be paid off, or there's liens that need to be cleared. We alert the clients, let them know what needs to be done, and then try to get everything cleared up before the close date. And then from there,
we got a question here, Walter. Caesar, my friend Caesar Cabrera.
Yes, I know Caesar.
Of course you know Caesar. He's asking, are those emails sent separated?
Emails sent.
Yeah. Seller and buyer get their own email, correct?
Oh, yes. Yeah. We basically make sure that, the seller's getting, what they need to see, the wholesaler's getting what they need to see. We keep everything separate because you have to. I mean, all the seller really cares about is, what their bottom line number is and making sure that the proceeds match what they're expecting. And there's no reason to send everyone the same exact paperwork. Everyone gets a HUD the day before closing, so that way they can make sure that everything is what it needs to be. And as a realtor that's done wholesale deals, that's one of the most important things that I know people want to see, is that they want to make sure that number you're getting, whether it's a real estate commission, the seller proceeds, the wholesale fee, they want to make sure that number is exact. They want to make sure they have all their wiring instruction and all their information for their banking is in the system with us, so that they can get paid on time. We don't charge any wire fees. We also, for cash closings, the nice thing is we do them virtually. We can actually, if there's a cash closing that needs to be done, whether it's retail or wholesale, we can do it virtually. That way it saves a step. It's actually more secure than sending a notary out there that could end up screwing up the deal because know what kind of mood they're in or what they're wearing. There's a lot of things we've actually thought of to keep the process a lot more streamlined and a lot more effective.
I put your email here, Walter. I said, send your files to Walter at walterdevenne.com. Make sure you send your files over there. Let him know you saw us on the podcast and that you want to open up a file, that you're wholesaling or whatever. Walter can do closings literally everywhere. And now, Walter, let's talk about files real quick. I remember when I first started wholesaling, sometimes I will bring some files to a title company and liens will pop up and things that were weird will come up on title. And I couldn't close on these deals, right? And then I would just get mad because I'm thinking, I already have a buyer, I have a seller, but there are things in between that cannot be clear that are preventing me from closing on these files. And I want you to explain a little bit to our audience what possibly can keep a file from being closed. Okay, I know there's thousands of reasons, but like, what are the most common ones? Because people think title companies are like this doctors that can cure things, right? And it's their fault if they don't get cured, and that's not really the case.
No.
Can you explain what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, we would love to say that we close 100% of the deals we get. But because there's so many moving parts and there's so many variables that can make or break a deal, like inspections. There could be an inspection done and the buyer and the realtor or whoever goes and sees the inspection, they see that there's some things on there that they didn't realize were on there. The seller's not willing to budge on the price, so they end up backing away. Or there's certain things, that when the inspectors come by, they see that the roof needs to be replaced. It could be a lot of different things that come up, and obviously all parties have to agree, and most of the time they do, but there's some times where they'll say, no, it's as is, you got to deal with it, and if not, whatever. Sometimes parties get cold feet, and that happens too. And it's unfortunate. We find out in wholesale transactions, buyers do fall out, occasionally. And when they do, the good news is, as long as the seller is willing to continue with that wholesaler, they can replace them with an end buyer and a new end buyer. And for us, we don't like to close the file because it's never over until it's over, the way we look at it. So for us, it's like, hey, if they're really done with this, let us know. We'll cancel and return the EMD and we're done. But in some cases, especially with wholesale, there's always ways to bring in new end buyers, and that's really kind of the main thing. As far as the liens and encumbrances, these are things that unfortunately are sometimes unavoidable. There's times that, exceptions can be made by the underwriter, depending on the situation,
or by the buyer. The buyer can say, hey, we don't have to insure this one particular. I've done that. I've bought properties where I'm like, hey, I don't care about that. Like, put it on Schedule B. I'm not gonna I don't need it to be insured, right?
There's a lot of ways to skin the cat, and there's so many different things that come up. But at the end of the day, as a title company, we don't make any money unless the deal closes. So sometimes we're kind of looked at as, hey, you guys need to step up. And it's like, we would love to, but there's sometimes that our hands are tied. So we try different things. The good news is we have several attorneys that work in our company, including one of our partners, Devin. And we have another attorney that's in our office, and then we have one in Oklahoma that actually are great to kind of use as a resource for different questions that, of course, come up. And I'd love to say I have all the answers. I don't, and even sometimes our closers might not know the exact answer, but we can kind of lean on our attorneys, our real estate attorneys that can look into it, and they can work a little bit closer with the underwriters. We try to use a lot of underwriters. We have like at least 5 or 6 that we use, and it's good to use more than one underwriter just because they can actually help. Some might help better than others. Some might be a little stricter. Some are wholesale friendly and some aren't. It's just again, it's kind of like how many resources can help the situation. So we try to put ourselves in the best position to help, and again, there's some cases where it's just no matter what we do, it's a dead deal. But we try real hard to make sure that's not the case, because again, when the deal's done, everyone loses.
What can be a dead deal?
Well, just like I said, parties, parties on the transaction not wanting to move forward for different reasons. Sellers, not budging on certain things. Buyers wanting a lower price. I mean, a lot of different things. So, I mean, for us, again, we try to make it work for everyone, and of course, it doesn't always work that way.
What are things that I can do as an investor to facilitate the title? The title company, that the transaction goes smooth.
We always recommend, no matter how seasoned a wholesaler and investor is, to work with a transaction coordinator. We don't provide transaction coordinators. We work with hundreds. And transaction coordinators, to me, are a really crucial part of making everything go smooth. Because at the end of the day, even big real estate agents that do luxury deals, they all have TCs. I mean, so why wouldn't a wholesaler do that if they're going to make a really good spread on a deal? And at the end of the day, especially if it's a newer wholesaler that's new to the business, that has a deal they're doing for the first time, and you can tell they're nervous. We always recommend that if they don't have one, and we try to place them with one, because they are massive in what they can do to help massage the whole process, get all the paperwork signed, do the things that most wholesalers and investors might not know. Or like an investor like you're a seasoned investor. You've closed tons of deals. For you're not wanting to spend your time doing what a TC should do. You're wanting to go get more deals and get more volume, get a bigger pipeline, so you make more money. And that's kind of like the thought process. So for us, it's like some of the best clients we have that send us heavy volume, they have TCs, and the TCs are great to work with. They really do make a difference. And as a company with analytics, we see less cancellations when TCs are involved than if they're not. So that's why we see a trend. And sometimes, the wholesaler might be, at the end of the day, just wanting to do their own thing. And more times than not, it's most likely going to cancel if that's the case.
Good. That's a good recommendation. We have, I've had a TC for a very long time. I don't have one right now because I'm not doing what I used to do before, real estate related. Sure. But I have friends, David Olds and a bunch of other ones that own TC companies today. Shout out to David and his team, Easy REI Closings. And they do make things a lot easier because they know what they need to do on a file, right? Especially if they have to collect documentation from the seller, from the buyer, from everyone involved. They're trained to work with the title company, because if the title company doesn't close, they don't make money. If the TC doesn't do their job, then the wholesaler is not going to want to work with them, because they're like, okay, what do I need a TC for? I can do it myself. But I agree with you. Even if you're a solopreneur, you should be looking for someone to help you with the transactional coordinating aspect to it. You should know what to do. That way, you know the steps that need to be taken, and you can ensure that your TC is doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
But you should not be wasting or putting your time towards TC work when you should be putting your time into lead generating more and closing more deals, right?
Exactly.
Good deal, man. So what's next for you, Walter? You've been in title for 25 years now, and how do you see yourself in the next, I don't know, 5 years in this world of real estate investing?
I'm honestly, happy where I am right now. The company I'm with at Close Title, I mean, we're generating a lot of activity. We're growing pretty fast. I know that. I mean, my personal goals are pretty lofty. I think that the fact that we've only been in business for 6 years and we're doing everything that we're doing right now in a down market, there isn't really anything to hold us back from in the next 5 years being one of the biggest independently owned title companies in the country. Like, we have the ability to do that. We have the right foundation, the right leadership, the right support, and we're very thankful and appreciative of that, because as you know, you've known me for 10 years, not every company has the same opportunities, and for me, I love being part of something that's, exciting. Our team that works with us, I mean, they're every day, like I said, they're trend setting. I mean, they're doing things that, most companies aren't doing. And again, the referrals we get on a daily basis is more than I've ever seen in my entire career. So I know we're doing something right. And it's great to talk to people that are looking for a company like ours that's looking to grow. As I'm big on attending events. I'm now obviously, enjoying doing podcasts with you today. I know you've got your event coming up at the 10 Growth event at the end of June that we're going to be.
Yeah, Walter cut off. I think he lost his connection or something like that. But yeah, attend Growth, June 27th, 28th, Tampa, Florida. It's going to be the first one in Tampa. It's going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to see you guys there. And don't forget to hit share, like, and subscribe. And I'm pretty sure I will have another podcast with Walter at some point. So you guys have a great day. Take care.